if we understand the time, then we're able not to see things, but to see into things. Now that's the base of my subject. The color purple. Now, since you understand that your enemy is not trying to get you up and out from under their pull, then you must look at everything that is done by and permitted by and that comes through your enemy with the eye of one who wants to rise and one who is looking into this thing to see what is in it to keep me where I am under their grip and under their power. The color purple. Subtleties. The color purple. Now, here's a movie with nearly an all-black cast. Whites are in the movie incidentally, but they are the unseen, all-pervasive reality, but they are not seen. You must understand that. But most who see the picture don't understand that whites are very present there, but they're not seen. The color purple. From the opening of that movie, nearly 60% of the women in the audience could identify with incest. That's hard for you to believe. But incest is common in the black experience today. But what you don't see when the enemy is writing a script from the book and making a movie for you to see, his aim is not just artistic. His aim has to do with the overall theme that I worked on for 15 minutes before I got into the color purple. His aim is, if you rise, he falls. So in order to impair your rise, I must put things before you that will increase the possibility of your never coming to power. And if I continue to lambaste the black man, if I destroy the man in your eyes and in his own eyes, he will never be able to rise. And if he does not rise, I will not fall. The aim is, if you rise, he falls. So in order to impair your rise, I must put things before you that will increase the possibility of your never coming to power. And if I continue to lambaste the black man, if I destroy the man in your eyes and in his own eyes, he will never be able to rise. And if he does not rise, I will not fall. Look now, insight. The color purple. I am not arguing about the reality of what is on the screen. I am arguing about the motivation, the subtlety in those who write that you never see, those who direct that you never see, those who are behind the scenes using the God-given talents and gifts of brilliant black artists to portray something that dehumanizes and keeps you in a mold that you cannot come to power with yourself. The color purple. So
let us stay, please, let us stay. I'll do anything for you. Let us stay.
Get the hell out of my house.
Let us stay. Let us stay. me. None of the death could keep me from.
While a domineering father produces a son that is a wimp. Another man, now he's totally out of the box. And he's so out of the box, he marries a mother figure in Oprah. And Oprah is so strong and magnificent in her strength till she just overpowers the man that she marries. So the image that we get here is the strong woman coming through all the time. The woman that is abused, the woman that is misused, the woman that is the strength and the cornerstone of everything. Everybody dumps on the woman. And finally we get a strong woman and she gets a man that is so weak that she ends up fighting white people while he stands on the sideline trembling. She said, "Take my children home." He becomes mama. While she stands and battles the police, she tells him, "Take my babies home."
Oh, look at that. That's the cutest little face I ever saw. Can you give me some sugar? You so sweet, you sweet. Hey, you look so nice.
Miss Millie, always going on over the cup.
Your children are so clean. Would you like to work for me? Be my maid?
Hell no.
What did you say?
Hell no. What did she say?
Hey, can't you pump that crude a little faster?
Gal, what did you say to Miss Millie?
I said hell.
Oh, Miss Sophia.
No! Miss Sophia, no!
Get my children out of here! Take them home! Get my children home! Get my children out of here! You black slut! Who do you think you are? Leave me alone! Touch me!
Who do you think you are, you fat nigga?
God! God! Help me! Help me!
I'm going to make this brief. In the end, finally, she gets strength. Everybody in the theater is happy. She finally gets the strength to rebel against this no-good man. He said, "Come on here, woman, and shave me." And everybody in the movie is with her when she picks up the rake. And everybody in the movie is saying, "Cut the son of a so-and-so. Cut it, cut it." And you can see her making up her mind to kill him now. And everybody in the audience is with her. Kill him. Even the brothers in the audience say, "Yeah, that nigga ain't right. Kill him. Kill him. No good nigga." But you don't see the white man have made him like that. You don't see that the social circumstances have destroyed your man and destroyed you. And now you about to destroy your man. And here the razor. He's acting the fool. And he's really calling for his demise. And this other one is running. You see her running to try and get there to stop this girl from killing this man. And some in the audience is saying, "Lord, stop her." And some saying, I hope you fall. That nigga need to be killed. And she gets there just in time to save that girl. Finally, in the end, she gets courage and she stands up against him very strongly. She got strength.
I promise you, until you do right by me, everything you think about is gonna crumble. Don't do it, Miss Celie. Don't trade places with what I've been through.
Come on, Miss Celie. Let's go to the car.
He ain't worth it. He ain't worth it.
Who you think you is? You can't cuss nobody. Look at you. You're black, you're poor, you're ugly, you're a woman, you're nothing at all.
Till you do right by me, everything you even think about gonna fail.
It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Because she's finally getting the upper hand over this man. Finally, she walks out on him. He goes right on down to nothing. The way he was when she met him. Dirt and filth and garbage. But the subtlety is, in that state, something happens to him. And he wants to try to make amends. It's a subtle point. It's there, but he did so much evil till you don't even notice the good that he's trying to do. So he takes the money that he saved and he makes it possible for the sister and her children to come back to make the reunion. So in the end, you see this reunion between the two sisters, and you see his image in the field. But he's faded in the background now. He's doing good, but his good is too little, too late. But he's trying now, but don't nobody have no sympathy for him.
This is your son.
Mama. Mama, Bonnie.
He says, welcome.
Bonnie, sangonini, mama.
He says, greetings.
Mama, oyezaliyo.
He says, this is the day of his dream.
Mama. Sangoboni.
See, this is, come on. This is Olivia. Mama. Oh, Mama. I want to know you, Mama. 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 Mama.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is but one God whose proper name is Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his servant and messenger. I greet you, my beloved brothers and sisters, in the greeting words of peace. We say it in Arabic, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, 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 dear beloved family, to another episode of the Imagination Show. Thank you so much for tuning in with us once again this evening. I hope that everyone can see and hear me properly. I'm just looking around, making sure that everything is as it should be. I wonder how many of you remember that movie that was showing that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was speaking about a few moments ago, The Color Purple. Very, very significant movie in the history of our people. Sister Claudia says it's disappeared. Let me just double check. Dear family. Should be fine. Well, I shall continue. Suffice to say that it was a very powerful movie, and carried with it tremendous meaning. And it's something that should really feature in what it is that we want to share with you this evening. I hope everybody's good. And as always, I want to encourage you to call a friend, a family member, a loved one, and tell them to tune in right now to the Image and Nation show, where we desire to share with you some of the life-giving teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we desire to cause you to begin to really use that faculty of imagination in order to bring about a change in your life. And collectively as a people, we want to bring about a change for the benefit of ourselves. And so, dear family, let us know also where you are watching us this evening. Again, you may be watching it at some different time, some later time. And so you may be, in a different geographic location. Let us know where you are. We are always very interested in learning where our brothers and sisters happen to be when they are tuned in to the Image and Nation show. It is, for me, for our sister Claudia, should be joining us shortly. It is for me always a tremendous honor and privilege to have the opportunity to speak to you each and every time that we have such an opportunity. It's not something that we take for granted. It's something that we know is an absolute privilege, and therefore, we always want to take that time to give thanks to Almighty God for the blessing of being able to share with others such a magnificent word, a word that doesn't originate with Brother Leo Muhammad, but a word that we have received over the years through the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as taught and exemplified by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Here comes beloved sister. Go ahead, beloved.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Sorry for my lateness. I pray that you are all safe and well, and thank you for tuning in. I just have to enable the chat on Zoom. It's disabled.
Okay. Where are you able to do it?
Yeah,
you just did it? Okay. Praise be to Allah. And so, yeah, here we are once again. And, we want to go straight into our theme this evening. And so I say, as always, welcome to episode 112. Today is Thursday, the 11th of January, 2024. We're 11 days in already into the brand new year of 2024. And the title today is The Enemy Within. Go ahead.
I was going to say, before we go into that, should I play the tape just to thank all those who attempted the 3-day fast this week?
Absolutely.
It was a trial as usual, but praise be to Allah. Just wanted to play this.
1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. As I said, the subject is the enemy within. But before that, we just wanted to look at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan speaking on the subject of 3-day
With the
fast.
greeting words of
Sorry, go ahead.
On the 3-day fast, because we wanted to congratulate any of you who may have made it.
That's right.
Last week, you know, we began last Thursday. We should have ended on the Sunday. And so for any of you who possibly made it, I know maybe one of you did a day, maybe somebody did 2 days. Who knows? Let us know today in the chat, please. Be honest, it doesn't matter. There's no shame if you wasn't able to achieve it. But the fact that you tried, absolutely wonderful.
That's right.
And as I said before, if you didn't even try, remember that you have at least another 11 months ahead where you can make an attempt. We do that fast starting the first Thursday of every month, going through to the Sunday where we consume no solid food whatsoever until that Sunday meal. And so, dear family, without further ado, we just wanted to hear a little bit from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on the subject.
Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Let me say how thankful to Allah I am that He blessed me to be among you once again, and thankful to Allah for the presence of each and every one of you, especially the believers who have fasted this weekend. My thanks to you for doing that which will make us a better people. In the Holy Quran, which is the book of scripture of the Muslims or the righteous, Allah says fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you. Whenever a people break down and lose themselves, it is because of a lack of discipline that allows the human being to be tempted to do that which is outside of the natural sphere of his life. The Bible says there's a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the ends thereof are the ways of death. When we go outside of the nature in which God created us, then we go into death. That death is not necessarily a physical death, but it is the erosion of your ability to see, to hear, to speak, to vision, and to bring what we vision into reality. That's death. So when God prescribes fasting, which means you deny yourself something very natural, which is food. We all need food to live. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us food keeps you here and food takes you away. Anything that you do in extreme will hurt you. Extreme fasting will kill you. Extreme eating will kill you too. So we have to find the balance. So when God asks the righteous to fast in a world like this, and to deny ourselves what our bodies need for nourishment, then that fasting produces a discipline. Because if you can stay away from what you naturally need to live, then you can discipline yourself to stay away from that which is against your life. Smoking, drinking, the use of drugs. Now, fornication and adultery is based on a natural thing. The hunger of the male for the female and the female for the male. But adultery and fornication destroys the social fabric of a community. So does gossiping, lying, slander, backbiting, cheating, stealing. These are things that destroy the social fabric of a community. So if you can deny yourself food, then you can stop lying. If you can deny yourself food, you can stop slander. You can stop gossip. And as powerful as sex is, through fasting, you can gain the discipline to come away from fornication and adultery, which erodes family life, destroys marriage, destroys a nation. So fasting is prescribed for us.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I thought that was very relevant.
1 second.
Mm.
Yeah, that was very powerful.
Yes.
And you know, dear family, I hope you got it, because that's why we do it, and that's the beauty and the power of it. And it's much bigger than just, you know, the deprivation of food, in terms of what it allows the individual to be able to achieve in terms of that self-discipline, which, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, then helps us to be able to eliminate and to take care of some of those vices that are in our societies, which ultimately undermine and destroy the society. And so, you know, fasting is a prescription from God, and I really hope that more of us will engage in such activity as time goes on in the pursuit of self-improvement. Back to the movie, The Color Purple, and how, you know, oftentimes you see with the enemy manipulating us as a people, we end up turning on one another, destroying one another, not recognizing that the cause of the problem is external, that the cause of the problem has been allowed to, even though it's an external problem, that problem has been allowed to infect or to infiltrate within the confines of our beings, the confines of our societies, the confines of our families. And then we end up turning on one another, seeing each other as the enemy, when in reality, our enemy is something and someone completely different. And so, you know, once again, dear family, our subject matter is the enemy within. And we hope and pray that we will be able to gain some insight into this in order to really appreciate that we have to eliminate that enemy within ourselves. Today, we wanted to keep things as simple as possible while focusing on a contentious aspect of our humanity, namely our biology and the biology of the earth, and the fact that we have an enemy to life who is so wicked and evil that the very gift of life itself has been turned into a weapon against the possible future existence of humanity. I just want us to really think about that. Think about life itself being used in such a way that it threatens life. Think about that notion of a heart attack, where your heart is actually literally attacking you. Think about this idea where instead of having an immune system, which has been inbuilt by the Creator to protect us from internal or external elements that could harm us, and that immune system would kick in order to protect us. Imagine a situation where the immune system has been so compromised that instead of the immune system kicking in to protect us, the immune system itself becomes an enemy by opening the door to welcoming in enemies.
Because it's been compromised.
Yeah, because it's been manipulated and it's been compromised in such a way that it now becomes an enemy rather than a friend. There's this image I've put up here. It's like the image of a brain looking at the different kind of linkages and connections that, and I mean, this is no way at all representative because there are literally billions of connections where the brain is concerned. But I was really trying to just illustrate the fact that, dear family, we are not islands in and of ourselves. We are connected to so many others, and so much of what God has produced is about connections, and our connections to one another, our connections to the universe, our connection to the earth, our connection to water and the water basin. And whenever we allow somebody to come in and sever those connections or to interfere with those connections where maybe they insert themselves as a link in a connection, where that connection itself now becomes compromised because it's not the connection as designed by Almighty God Allah. It is now something that has been interfered with, manipulated in such a way where on the surface it looks like we're still using the natural connection, but in reality we're going through some other entity, or we are now being disconnected and diverted in another way that we can't necessarily see. I hope you get this, because this is something which is very real in the Black world, going all the way back 6,000 years in specifics, and 4,000 years even more specifically. And when we go back into our enslavement, some nearly 500 years ago, even more specifically, when we have allowed an alien entity, an alien species to so dominate our world that today hardly anything that we do is natural and organic, devoid of the influence of that one who has usurped, who has come in and is now manifestly influencing all of our connections. Dear family, this is so critically important for us to come to the realization of. Otherwise, like that sister in the color purple, yeah, we can have the knife under the throat of that black man who's been our tormentor for so long. But as long as we think that he is the sole enemy and not realizing that he has been made an enemy for us, and we are failing to identify the maker, then of course there is plenty of black on black crime or black on black violence, black on black brutality. And we can go like a dog chasing his tail round and round in a perpetual cycle of, recrimination and hatred and negativity, not realizing that this is a game by design. Biology is the scientific study of life. This is just one of the definitions. Biology is a very big subject. And I'm not, again, pretending here that we are being definitive. We're just taking a definition for illustrative purposes, for the purpose of this particular presentation, this show. But biology is the scientific study of life. It is a natural science with a broad scope, but has several unifying themes that tie it together as a single coherent field. For instance, all organisms are made up of cells that process hereditary information encoded in genes, which can be transmitted to future generations. Dear family, talking about connections, talking about God's profound, beautiful, and powerful creation in the form of biology, and how, when left in its natural way, it really enhances our human life and our planetary life. But if interfered with, can cause real problems. I put up here something that says, study humans, improve life. See, biology is there for us to study, no doubt. We have a teaching that is all about the knowledge of self. And it's not just psychological knowledge. It's not just, that cerebral, philosophical, spiritual knowledge of self, but it is also about getting some insight into our biological makeup, into our physical human makeup. So there's nothing wrong with that type of observation and that type of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding when it comes to how things work, how we work, what's our relationship with our planet and our universal order. This is all good, dear family. And for those who have made deep studies into biology, they have identified many correlations between the human body and the universe at large. The human body and the earth itself, the water, the rocks, the vegetation, and see how all of it correlates and how all of it complements one another and how all of it is connected.
Like the leaves, they say, the veins they show.
Break it down, sister.
No, I don't know it properly, but I just remember them saying that when you look at a leaf and you see all the veins running through the leaves, it's like our body.
Like your hand, same thing, same principle. We are from the earth and we go back to the earth, and everything that comes up out of that earth really is a compliment to us. Did you know, dear family, that within each of us, we got gold?
Yes.
that we got silver, that we got all of these powerful elements that we find in the earth, in the human body, but in small portions. And that all of it has a use and a purpose that is powerful in terms of our makeup.
I was going to add, and that's also like when you're craving a certain food, that's your body telling you that you're lacking something.
Lacking in iron.
Yes, iron.
You need some zinc.
That's right. So, our bodies, when we get back into tune with our bodies, our bodies tell us when there's something wrong. Like when you've got a headache, there's a problem. Maybe you need to drink more water. You don't need the paracetamol. You don't need this tablet, that tablet, because then you're just suppressing that problem. So we all have to study our body. Is such a magnificent. That this is the house of God.
That's right. That's right. It is the most perfect
absolutely
vehicle in the universe.
That's right.
Dear family. It's a very, very special thing, this body of ours. And there is no better frame, there is no better vehicle for the transportation of the human spirit than this wonderful, wonderful body. And so, brothers and sisters, we are getting to the point. What is the point? Look at this image. This is what often is called bio or biological warfare. This is what we are really aiming to talk about this evening. Biological warfare. In other words, now somebody is going to target the very biology of the human being. Going to target the biology of our planet. Going to look at the makeup of us and our planet and make an attempt to manipulate nature in such a way that nature becomes an enemy to human beings. I want you to think with me, because there is such an entity on our planet who, it would appear, can only think in such terms. They can't think about the magnificence, the beauty of that gift from God, and how to enhance it, and how to take it onto another level, and how to really show respect for that gift.
That's right. It is a gift.
But instead, they have to try to find ways to break it down and to destroy it and to manipulate it in a way where now somebody may be about to have a heart attack. Biological warfare, also known as germ warfare, is the use of biological toxins or infectious agents such as bacteria. We live in a world full of bacteria, but bacteria is not necessarily bad. You have healthy, good bacteria. And you've got some bacteria that's not so good. But if you deliberately now seek out the bad bacteria with the design to manipulate it in such a way where you want to do what sometimes in the scientific realm they call gain of function. So you want to add functions to this bacteria, to these pathogens or whatever, that they now become deadly. Let me not go off. biological toxins or infectious agents such as bacteria, viruses, insects, and fungi with the intent to kill, harm, or incapacitate humans, animals, or plants as an act of war. Biological weapons are living organisms or replicating entities. So they don't necessarily have to be living, they could be just dead entities that replicate themselves in cell cultures and in such a way that they become dangerous. Dear family, just think about where we live. Think about the world in which we live. And imagine, because I know that for the vast majority of us, we're not really going to be able to imagine this, but I want us to imagine, if you can, that while you and I are speaking right now, there are people in laboratories trying to conjure up or think up new ways to kill human beings. I just want you to try and wrap your mind around such a concept. And I want you to ask yourself, under what circumstances do you believe that you, as an individual, could be a part of a system that thinks it's normal to have a desire to do such a thing? Have a desire to manipulate the natural world, which is never, ever harmful to life and is designed in such a way to complement life. But can you imagine yourself being a part of a system that now wants to take such a beautiful, natural flora and fauna and turn it against life itself? Imagine you got these people like Bill Gates right now who are saying that they're working on a system to try to dim the sun because, you know, there's too much sunlight. The planet is overheating. This is the God complex of some of these people, where they literally see themselves as God. And evidently God made a mistake when he made that ball of fire 853,000 miles in its diameter, 93 million miles away. And they have to now try to modify the sun so that they can cool the planet down. And part of the process of doing that is to layer the atmosphere with pieces of aluminium and all manner of madness that poison the members of the human family on the planet. I just want you to think, I just want us to think, dear brothers and sisters, because it's actually quite crazy what these people do. And unfortunately, you know, for a lot of us, we are, and I didn't say you, I said we are very naive to the wicked nature of these machinations and potentially how they can ill affect all of us if we fail to identify that we have an enemy. Our greatest enemy is an internal enemy, the enemy within. That's our greatest enemy. That's that inner man or inner woman who may be somewhat childlike, which is not a bad thing. It's beautiful to have that inner child. But if we refuse to grow up and study, read, as the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was commanded, Iqra, the Arabic word, Iqra, read in the name of thy Lord, study. And again, reading is not necessarily just about book reading, but read this, study what is around us in order that we might come to a mature understanding of what it is that we face as human beings. Our greatest enemy is an internal enemy. I mean, that could be broken down in so many ways, but it's very real, dear family. Oftentimes we look out for an enemy and we fail to identify that one within ourselves. Going back to fasting, I think it's been said, and but when we can overcome the weakness of self, when we can deny ourselves, when we can strengthen ourselves by taking on the weakness of ourselves, we become tremendously strong and powerful, and we can deal with external enemies. But as long as internally we're weak, in that the internal enemy is not being identified and dealt with, the internal enemy can consistently erode our inner strength, making us vulnerable to external forces. Does that make sense, dear family?
Well, it's just as simple as, okay, you're supposed to be on 1 meal a day, but then you think, oh, let me just have a little breakfast. Or you see something that you're not supposed to take. Let me just take it. So each time you do that which you're not supposed to do, that enemy within is winning. It's overpowering you.
Yeah, and growing.
That's right.
The internal enemy is then growing in strength.
That's right.
Wow.
Because then that's the point. We look out all the time and look at this person, but then you have to look at yourself and try and align yourself up with God so that you're staying on that right path, the straight path. Because all this, you're bombarded constantly. Drink this, eat this, do that. Every day we're bombarded with that. Even when you're born, imagine God doesn't make a mistake when the baby comes out of the womb. Why do you need to inject it? Why?
It's crazy. It's crazy. When my daughter was born, 31 years ago, one of my daughters, I was blessed to be in the room, and I basically delivered my daughter myself. The midwife was in our bedroom. She was very angry because we basically made her redundant. My wife and I at the time decided to take care of business ourselves. And I remember when this woman came out of the bedroom and went into her bag and pulled out a syringe and this big needle and squirted it. By the way, that was my first marriage.
Not me, because I'm under 30.
Because she's
I'm 25.
Too young
to
remember that. But the woman squirted this big needle. And I said, what is that? And she said, oh, it's vitamin K. And I said, what? Vitamin K? What for?
That's right.
She said, oh, it's just standard. When the baby is born, we normally give the baby an injection just in case the blood, it doesn't coagulate properly or whatever. So, we just help to make sure that there's no hemorrhaging the baby. I said, you're not injecting my baby with that. And I could see a whole persona, her face just went bright red. And I said, no, you're not going to inject my child with that. And so I remember she threw the needle, the syringe back into her bag. She was so angry. And, when you think about that, these people, they love to interfere to such a degree. And it's so sad that so many of us now would, in that circumstance, hearing that explanation, oh, they're going to help the baby, would just think, oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for your help. Wow. What would I have done if you wasn't here? Well, what you would have done if they weren't there, you'd have just had your baby in a natural way without any interference. Imagine the mentality that says, look, God is so useless at making babies, at making healthy babies, that no sooner does the baby leave the womb that you need these people to jump in with a big needle and help God out just in case the blood doesn't coagulate properly, whatever that means. I said, my God, man. And these are the types of interventions that happen on a everyday basis. But they're so commonplace now that the vast majority of us, we don't even think anything is strange. Where a pregnant woman, again, let's continue to talk about pregnancy, where you go to the doctor or whatever, because you're pregnant. And in the planning for the birth, they may be telling you about gas and air. They may be telling you about TENS, which is like an electronic device that they stick on your back to presumably dull pain. They may be telling you about an epidural, where they're going to inject you in your spine in order to, again, kill pain, because they're trying to give you a pain-free birth, right? They may be telling you about cesarean section, where, for whatever reason, oftentimes during the process of birth, and I know there's many sisters listening to this, you probably be able to bear witness, but they're really telling you that, well, if the baby gets into trouble,
distress.
Yeah, if the baby is distressed, then we may have to do a cesarean, pull the baby out because it's taking too long. And this is another thing. It's like they're on some kind of clock.
Yeah. Oh, it's taking too long.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if the baby is taking too long to come, then let's get it over and done with. That birth that we was just talking about 31 years ago, at the time, before my then wife was ready to give birth, the midwife was feeling around to see how much she was dilated, how many centimeters she was dilated by. And she had done this a couple of times prior, over a period of about an hour or so. And she was so impatient for that process to take its course that she deliberately used her finger and broke the waters. By the way, it was after that she was banished from that room and she went into the bedroom, because we clearly could, my ex-wife could feel what she did, and two, that was it for us. We said, no, this is just ridiculous. Who is this woman? It's like having a fiend in your house at a precious time when you want to give birth to new life. And so it's like they're on a clock. And, this thing has got to happen according to their time frame. Not when God ordains it. Because, you know, you can expect to have your baby in the month of July, right?
Mhm.
But it could be July the 10th. It could be July the 15th. It could be July the 18th.
Mhm.
You know, but this thing where they want to determine the exact date and time, and if it's not going to happen according to their schedule, then these people love to interfere. Dear family, our greatest enemy is an internal enemy. And oftentimes that internal enemy is one that we've let in. It's not a natural resident internally in the first place. Our greatest enemy is an internal enemy. Be that our thinking. See again, as a man thinketh, so is he. So if we're thinking about the enemy in the wrong way, imagine you're thinking that your enemy is your friend. It's all over. Your enemy is there to help you by injecting your child with vitamin K. And how do you know it's vitamin K? How do you even know? I mean, that's bad enough, but I'm saying, what if it's not vitamin K? What if it's something else? What if it's a combined flu and COVID shot? Because now they've determined that, well, it's better to give it to the baby at birth. Who knows? Who knows what's in the vial? Our greatest enemy is an internal enemy. Be that our thinking or our lack of security check procedure on what we allow to enter our beings and enter into our territories. See, I hear all the time in the news these people talking about the borders and how important immigration is and how important it is for them to keep the integrity of their borders. And that, you know, immigration is such a huge problem. And they've got to keep illegal aliens out. And when you're thinking about national sovereign borders, it kind of makes sense if we're going to respect the sovereignty of individual nations. Okay, everybody should have the right to be able to determine who comes in and out of their territory, in and out of their countries. It always makes me laugh when I look at somewhere like Australia, a place that was colonized and ultimately stolen from the indigenous people, and the indigenous people being ethnically cleansed to the point where you can hardly find an Aboriginal person anymore. But when you go to Australia today, they have one of the most draconian immigration systems on the planet.
We've got somebody from Australia online.
Oh, that's good.
Door.
Maybe we can hear from our Australian.
How do you say door?
Door. Bull?
I don't know. Say your name wrong.
Well, you know, now you are determined to keep a piece of fruit out of your country that could potentially contaminate your fauna and flora. Nobody can bring no live animals or dead animals even into your country. But once upon a time, you strolled in via Bondi Beach with Captain Cook and whoever else from Europe and began systematically stealing that land and genociding those native people. But here you are today, determined to keep the integrity of your borders. See, their family, as Africans, as original people, Black people, we've got to learn the integrity of our own being, our own territories, and make a determination once and for all that it cannot be that any and anyone can just come in. If you watch those old Dracula films, how many of us appreciate that Dracula could never, ever, and you never saw Dracula kicking anybody's door down. He never did it. Guess why? He couldn't come into the house unless somebody let him in. A window had to be left open, or somebody had to open the door and invite Dracula in. This is what we do as a people. Our lack of security check procedure on what we allow to enter our beings and territories. I mean, Sister Claudia was speaking a minute ago, talking about, you know, eating and drinking. I heard it on the video before, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was talking about drinking and smoking. But again, dear family, imagine how we just eat anything that is put in front of us, and we don't examine the food that we're given to see whether or not it's actually wholesome, to see whether or not it's actually healthy. And is this ingredient a good ingredient? What is soya? Somebody told us that soya is healthy. And how many of us just gobble down soya? In Chinese cooking, there's a whole heap of soya that they use, soya sauce. But according to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in message to, in How to Eat to Live, soya is not a good food, beloved. It's not a good food. But again, are we even reading food labels anymore?
And by eating that particular foods, how it controls your mind, which they know this well, the scientists. That's why they feed us particular food with chemicals in there. Then we act a particular way. When they're thinking, how comes I'm acting like this? Because of what we've just eaten. It goes deep.
Absolutely, beloved. Think about a world where scientifically they know how to create dog food that will make the dog's coat shiny.
Scientists.
That will have that dog at optimum health. They know how to feed a thoroughbred horse that would allow that horse to run. And by the way, one of the reasons why it's a thoroughbred is that that horse will run, and it will run until it dies if you don't stop it. That's how it's bred to have that kind of stamina and that kind of determination, where it's not going to just give up and say, it will just keep going until the heart bursts. A thoroughbred. Look, family, they know how to breed horses and dogs and other creatures to get optimum health and production. Yet every day they're bemoaning the fact that they haven't got enough hospitals for human beings, and how they need more hospitals, more healthcare facilities, more hospices, more palliative care for those who are dying and diseased and whatever. You really think they don't know what they're doing when it comes to keeping human beings sick and unhealthy and in a decrepit state. Man, I'm trying to get to the subject.
And that's the point. We don't have to live like that. It's like our parents, you know, a lot of them suffering from dementia. And it's like, you know,
Alzheimer's disease,
Alzheimer's.
dementia. Go ahead.
Yes, and they wonder why they're suffering from it. Because of what?
Talk about it.
Because of what they eat or we eat. Because we're not supposed to eat pig. Our parents know, oh, it's all right, won't kill us. Yes, it's absolutely killing you. We can have a better quality of life if we know how to eat to live. And it goes deep. All these ailments we're suffering, it's because of what we're eating and thinking, taking. Would you like some water?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I've still got my little tickle, dear family. It's been there all week. And I wonder if it's actually connected with our subject. I want us to think, okay, our lack of a security check procedure and what we allow to enter our beings and territories, our lack of suspicion and scrutiny of our over 400-year-old enemy. How can you have an enemy who is so old, who's been doing evil for so long? And yet today, many of us, all that enemy has to do is smile at us, make us a promise, and that's it. All of our defenses are down. And then we wonder why, as a people, we're in so much trouble. Think about that. It's not like this is an enemy that you've had for 4 days. Because a 4-day-old enemy, you don't really know the person. You just met them 4 days ago. It was a road rage incident. They called you some bad names. You called them some bad names. They threatened to kill your whole family. You said, well, whenever you're ready, this is where I live. Okay. Chances are you could probably go to meet in a cafe or a restaurant and have a conversation, and maybe you might find out that you've actually got more in common. By the way, that's why both of you were suffering from road rage, because you've actually got a lot in common. But my point is that it could turn out that that person is not so much of an enemy as we first thought when that little argument developed. But come on, family. What if the enemy is 400 years old? What if somebody's been doing bad things to you for 4 centuries? At what point are we going to make a determination that this enemy is an eternal enemy and cannot be trusted and must be scrutinized and must be treated with suspicion at every juncture, at every turn? See, there's a saying, you know, fool me once. Yeah, that's on me. But if you fool me twice, when you fool me once, that's on you. But if I allow you to fool me twice, that's now on me. Dear family, our lack of suspicion and scrutiny of our over 400-year-old enemy, our failure to remember history, and in so doing, prevent the many stealthy, diabolical crimes being planned and committed against Black and indigenous people all over our planet Earth. This is what's happening because you and I are careless. This is what we basically wanted to talk about this evening, dear family. And I'm going to try to not this too much, but I'm going to have to stop, I know, because there's so much in this. Please watch.
Imagine a world where secret laboratories exist, hidden away, conducting experiments that sound like they're straight out of a horror movie. Now, what if I told you that these labs are real, and they're scattered across the globe, including Africa? You might think it's just a wild conspiracy, but hold on, because what we've discovered will leave you speechless. In this video, we're diving deep into the claims of US secret bioweapons in Africa. It's a topic that's been brushed off as mere rumors, but we've got information that could change your perspective forever. From hidden facilities to the dark experiments they're rumored to conduct, we're uncovering it all. By the end of this video, you'll see exclusive insights, hear from experts who dare to speak out, and witness evidence that challenges everything you've been told. So stick around, because what you're about to see will redefine the boundaries between fiction and reality. The United States is a global powerhouse, with a network of over 400 biological laboratories worldwide, including over 30 in Africa alone. Now you might be wondering why a country like the US needs such a vast network of labs far beyond its borders. Think about it. In our backyards, we're used to labs conducting research for the betterment of humanity. But the story changes when these labs are thousands of miles away, in different countries, operating under a veil of secrecy. It raises a...
Please think with me, family. Please, 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 just think with me a minute. Why would America have over 30 secret biological laboratories in Africa, on the African continent?
Why?
Why? And according to the narrator, you know, they can do stuff in Africa secretly that they would never be able to get away with in America. But who allowed them in the first place? Why would we allow another country to have secret laboratories on our continent, especially a country like that, that has got a proven track record of some really diabolical behavior when it comes to Black people? Just see, often I hear us, you know, we say, you know, we want respect. You know, these people, they don't respect us. we get really hurt because they call us names, and you know, maybe there's a white man who wants to use the N-word. Like you said, well, you all use it, you Black people. Why can't I use it? And you know, we get so offended by, you know, this idea that these people think that they can use the N-word. You know, we're so mocked. And in truth, we're some of the biggest mockers of ourselves. Because while we have these little battles over trivia and foolishness, you're talking about America. And by the way, it's not just America. Then you're talking about Britain, France, and some of these other Europeans. But understand that when you're talking about America having over 30, and if they're telling you that they've got over 30, God knows what the real figure is. If they're saying that they've got over 400 all around the world and over 30 of them on the continent of Africa, we know that they've got nearly 1,000, if not more, bases, military bases all around the globe. The question is, why would we allow this? Why would a modern African leader permit America to have a secret biological laboratory in his country?
A question mark. We all remember the COVID-19 pandemic and have heard of diseases like HIV. There's a chilling theory that these could be the results of experiments from such biolabs. Initially, the US set up these labs in Africa in the late 1990s, supposedly to fight HIV and malaria. But fast forward to today, and their numbers have...
You hear the way he says, supposedly to fight HIV and malaria? Because he knows, they know, supposedly, because he knows it's not really, that's not really the purpose. He talked about a rumor as it relates to HIV and Ebola. Rumor. See, but any scientist worth his value will tell you that whether it was HIV, Ebola, any of them that have sprung up on the African continent, that none of them were natural. And there's plenty of evidence pointing to the fact that these were laboratory creations. Why? Why would we allow somebody like America or the Western powers,
exploded to over 400.
Our former colonial masters, to have secret biological labs on the African continent? Please listen, dear family.
Officially, the US says these labs are researching global biological threats and finding solutions. But could there be more to this story? This brings us to a startling claim by the Russian Defense Ministry. During the build-up to the Russia-Ukraine war, they accused the US of using Ukrainian labs to develop biological weapons, allegedly planning to spread them using migratory birds and bats. Sounds like something out of a sci-fi novel, right? The US initially called these claims misinformation, but here's where it gets fascinating. Documents surfaced, thanks to Robert Kennedy Jr., an American politician, that shed light on these US-funded labs in Ukraine. They were not just any labs. They were allegedly creating components for biological weapons and testing them on the local population. And in 2023, Kennedy Jr. himself confirmed this shocking revelation. The US, after a period of denial, had to come clean about running these biolabs in Ukraine. Fast forward to October 2023.
Before we fast forward to October 2023, just think about that. Here you got the Russians revealing that America had secret biological weapons labs in Ukraine. And the Americans, of course, big denial. No. This is misinformation. You know, these modern terms that they use. But over time, it's been proven. And you've had American officials in front of Congress who have had to admit to the fact of these labs in Ukraine. But listen to what he said. He said they were using and testing things on the local population. Ukrainians. These are the same people that they say that, you know, they back the Ukrainians and they're using the Ukrainians to fight this proxy war against the Russians, and the Ukrainians are white people like them and they love them, but they were experimenting on those people. And of course, as I said, they denied that these laboratories even existed, but now it's been proven that those laboratories did exist, are there in Ukraine. And what do we think? If they have, not if, the fact that they have these types of facilities on the African continent. What do you think they're doing, dear family? Do you really think that they are there, as stated a minute ago, about looking for biological threats that they can help to fix the world? And why are we so crazy talking about these African leaders, these African governments? Wouldn't surprise me if they've got the same stuff going on in the Caribbean with some of these so-called Caribbean leaders. See, because I'm telling you, family, our problem as Black people, as original people, as Africans, one of our biggest problem is our leadership. I'm sad to say it, but that's real. And if that's the case, and it is the case, that means we have an internal enemy. The enemy is within. And as long as the enemy is willing to open the door to outside forces that are hostile to our very existence, then what do we expect to happen? How do we think that we're going to be able to develop and grow and become the beautiful, mighty, righteous people that God put us on the earth to be in the first place? I just want us to really think about what's going on, because we're in 2024 and this is real. This is the state of play right now. Secret biological laboratories.
Plot thickens
on
as the
African
Russian
continent.
Defense Ministry raises the alarm again. This time, they're pointing fingers at the US for shifting its dual-use biological research to Africa.
Did you hear that? So the Russians pointed out in the first place that they had these labs in Ukraine. America denied it, then they had to admit it. Now the Russians are pointing out that they've got these labs in Africa. What America doing? Denying it. Eventually, it's going to be proved categorically that they do and they are. And the question I'm asking is, what's the purpose? You see, I know what the purpose is, but I'm asking you, do you really think that they're there because they're benevolent and they're there to help Africans? If so, why do these things have to be secret then? If they were really there to combat Ebola or to combat HIV, and by the way, you see, again, you're there to combat the things that you put there in the first place. But if that was even the case, why would it have to be secret?
Dual use, a term that suggests these labs could be used for both peaceful research and developing bioweapons. And
did you hear that? All of these labs are dual use labs. In other words, they can be used for peaceful means and, of course, to develop biological weapons. So this is not some purely civilian infrastructural enterprise designed to help with medical problems that may be plaguing the African continent. You know, they love to tell us about yellow fever and all of these diseases and things that they want to combat. So that could be one use for these biological laboratories. But according to this documentary, these are all dual use facilities, so that they also have the capability for creating biological weaponry. These are weapons specifically designed to affect the biology of the human being. Think about it, dear family.
Where is this happening? In African nations, far from the prying eyes of the international community. The US keeps denying these allegations.
But just listen to the language. Far from the prying eyes of the international community. See, Africa is being treated like some little alleyway, some dirty little corner of the planet where they can go and do all their filth and nobody's going to look. Nobody's taking any notice because, well, after all, it's only blacks, it's only Negroes. Do you remember at the start of the whole COVID thing when those two French doctors were overheard and recorded talking about, yeah, put it in Africa, experiment on the Africans because, you know, they're promiscuous or they, you know, they don't mind. Think about this attitude and this mentality where we remain so vulnerable as a people because we've got no defenses up, because we trust and we love everybody. Really? Really? Are we still that naive that we're going to keep on opening our door to Dracula, to a bloodsucker, to an outright murderer, killer? And then we wonder why our continent remains in the abject condition that it's in many parts, where on the surface we can see some shiny buildings and we can think, oh, Africa's on the up and up. But in reality, if you've got corrupt leadership that's sold out to an enemy that would allow people to bring in secret biological laboratories to do God knows what on the continent, are we really making progress? Says America keeps denying these allegations, but we can't help but
wonder if Russia was right about the Ukrainian labs. Could they be on the mark again? This is where Dr. Ntsikelelo Benjamin Breakfast, a senior lecturer at Nelson Mandela University, comes into the picture. He's got an interesting take on this whole situation. Dr. Breakfast suggests that the US might be shifting its biological research to Africa, not just for scientific purposes, but to increase its geopolitical influence. Remember, Africa is a treasure trove of resources and a key player in global politics. Dr. Breakfast points out something even more intriguing. With US military bases in Africa, these biolabs could be part of a larger military infrastructure. This insight leads us to a pressing question. Should there be a push to dismantle foreign military bases in Africa, especially if they're intertwined with secretive biolabs? Let's pivot and look at this from another angle. The recent report by Russia about US labs in Africa sheds light on a deeply troubling aspect: the alleged ease of conducting experiments on the local African population. It's a grim suggestion that these experiments are not only more cost-effective in Africa, but also carry fewer risks of damaging the US reputation.
Can you believe these people? It's easier to conduct these experiments on the local African populations, and you know, by the way, it carries less risks of damaging America's reputation, because when the fallout, when our people start to die from these grotesque injuries and diseases and problems, you know, America can whitewash the whole situation and there won't be such an outcry, because after all, it's only Africa. It's only these black people who are so dumb and so backward that, you know, no wonder they're suffering from all of these diseases. My God. And America's reputation can remain intact. Wow.
The facade is that these labs are set up to combat deadly diseases. But what if the reality is far more sinister? Imagine the catastrophic consequences if deadly diseases, whether viruses or pathogens, were to escape from these labs. Africa, a region already battling healthcare challenges, might not.
And you know, the way they always talk about these pathogens or diseases, viruses escaping, from the lab, as if it's always going to be an accident, not deliberate, not that somebody's going to deliberately create something and then infect a whole set of people with these. No, it's just be an accident. Just be an accident. Time for us to start thinking, family.
Consequences if deadly diseases, whether viruses or pathogens, were to escape from these labs. Africa, a region already battling healthcare challenges, might not have the resources to contain such outbreaks. The story takes another turn with recent revelations exposing a covert American laboratory allegedly backed financially by the George Soros and Bill and Melinda Gates foundations. Despite U.S. assurances denying bioweapon experiments in their labs, reports suggesting otherwise have surfaced. These facilities, wrapped in high security and secrecy, become even more suspicious during disease outbreaks, making it challenging to trace the origins of these epidemics. Let's focus on the Ebola virus outbreak, which adds another layer to this complex narrative. The crisis saw an influx of specialists, predominantly Europeans and Americans.
So Ebola breaks out, and you've got this influx of these experts, primarily Europeans, white people, all over Africa. You see them in their bio suits, lifting up some emaciated African, basically, 2 seconds from death. And again, how long must this continue where we're looking at these people as these white saviors, when in reality, they're the ones who are infecting us and killing us, and then flooding into Africa now with the solution. I think it's David Icke who said, problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem, which causes a reaction, something must be done, and then they, in turn, come now to offer the solution. And at each juncture, whether it's the problem, the reaction, or the solution, all of it is a manipulation by them. Even the way they talk about Africa, well, Africa is already suffering from so many health problems or whatever. Again, all of it initiated by the invasion from Europe, going back, starting in 1884, 1885, at that Berlin conference when they carved up Africa. And then Europeans went in with all of their war making and all of their disease causing infrastructures. And Africa has never been the same since. You got to understand this. The underdevelopment of Africa has been deliberate. The fact of Africa's dirt roads is deliberate. It's not that, the French and the British and all these people with their asphalt roads are somehow geniuses where they were able to develop on that level with their lampposts and their traffic lights and everything neat and tidy. And Africa is basically still looking like it's parts of the 18th century. That's deliberate underdevelopment, deliberate raping of resources and raw materials to then go to Europe to make their infrastructure beautiful and intact, while we stay stagnant and worse, atrophy, go backwards. I just want us to appreciate, brothers and sisters, what we are looking at on this subject of the enemy within. I've lost it. I've lost my place, but I can't stop. I've got to go back. Got to go back. Got to go back. Mhm.
Imagine a world where a staggering 3,615. This move assurances denying bioweapon experiments in their labs, reports suggesting otherwise have surfaced. These facilities, wrapped in high security and secrecy, become even more suspicious during disease outbreaks, making it challenging to trace the origins of these epidemics. Let's focus on the Ebola virus outbreak, which adds another layer to this complex narrative. The crisis saw an influx of specialists, predominantly Europeans and Americans. Over 250,000 blood samples were collected from African patients without their consent, an ethically dubious practice. These samples weren't just kept in Africa, they were transported to Europe and the US for research. This move provided European and American pharmaceutical companies with unauthorized genetic data from African populations, a breach of ethics on multiple levels. The financial aspect. It saved these companies billions in vaccine development costs. But the ethical cost, immeasurable. An alarming case emerged with a Guinean woman identified.
Just before we go further, I hope you're listening. Do you hear that? How they're taking our blood unlawfully without even our permission and capitalize it on it. It's going to go more into an individual case of a sister, an African sister now.
Identified only by the code C15. Her blood containing the Ebola virus is now commercially available on the website of the European Virus Archive, housed at Germany's Bernhard Nocht Institute for Tropical Medicine. The price tag? A staggering 3,637 euros, making it 170 times more valuable than gold. This is more.
They're selling the sister's blood online, and she's not the first one that, as original people, they use our genetic markers, our blood, our cells, stem cells, and other body parts for commercial gain. Because again, we don't necessarily appreciate who we are and how valuable we are, one, in the sight of God, but even more so to Satan, who, when he looks at our blood, when he looks at our genetics, when he looks at our makeup, he sees something so powerful. Ah, brothers and sisters, I wish we really could appreciate what's been done here and how these people are manipulating us and how we've allowed an enemy on the inside of us.
More than just a breach of ethics, it's a glaring example of how bioresearch in Africa can be not only cost-effective, but also highly lucrative for Western interests. What we're seeing here is a troubling scenario, where the West seems willing to commodify anything, even the genetic material of individuals who never consented to their participation. This raises many ethical questions. What rights do these individuals have? And what does it say about the value placed on African lives and their genetic material? Shifting our focus to a new aspect of this complex saga, we encounter yet another layer of secrecy and controversy. The exact number of blood samples collected in Africa by American and European medics remains a closely guarded secret, justified under the banner of national security.
So the exact amount of our blood and everything that they've collected is a secret, and it's justified under the banner of national security. Whose national security? If you're doing this on the African continent, within an African sovereign country, but yet this is the American national security in somebody else's sovereign territory. I hope you're listening, dear family. I really do, because this is where we are in 2024. This is the state of play, man. And it's not something that we're going to be able to just party and dance our way out of. We're going to have to, as a people, the masses of our people in these African nations and in the African nations in the diaspora, whether we're in the Caribbean, here in Europe, in North America, we're going to have to stand up and say enough is enough and change this status quo, because the status quo stinks. It really stinks to high heaven. No wonder God is mad.
This response naturally leads us to question how withholding such information serves national security interests. Adding to the puzzle, African scientists from Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea find themselves barred from accessing these samples for the research.
The African scientists are barred from accessing any of this information, which they're taking from Africans on the African continent. That is the height of stupidity on our part. Imagine somebody can come into your territory, abuse your people, take their blood, and you can't even see. You're not allowed. Man, oh man, oh man, family.
This exclusion is particularly troubling, considering the samples are from their fellow citizens. If the U.S. bioresearch initiatives are genuinely altruistic, aimed at benefiting Africa and the global community, why deny African scientists the opportunity to contribute and learn? Recent reports have highlighted Uganda as a key interest point for the United States in its network of biolabs. These labs, including those within prisons, are said to be researching hazardous viral respiratory infections. Alarming
labs within African prisons. Come on. You know, I mean, just imagine the African president or the African prime minister or the African leader who permits America to come into their country and set up a biological lab, a secret lab in one of their prisons where they've got access to African prisoners. And you would allow that as a leader? Claudia, can you believe this?
How much were they paid?
No, but that's the point, isn't it? So some money is more important to you than the welfare of your own people.
The lives.
And you don't mind them coming in and experimenting, deadly experimentations with deadly diseases and pathogens and all manner of things on your own people. And somehow you think that somebody with such a low-down character like that, I'm talking about the so-called president or prime minister or leader who would allow that, you think that somebody with that type of warped character is going to be loved by the enemy, and the enemy knows that you're so cheap, filthy, and nasty that you would do that to your own? You think that the enemy is going to love you and keep you in perpetuity? It's only a matter of time when you fall out with that enemy. No wonder.
That's why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan warned us, do not make money your God, because then you'll do anything.
Do anything for the money. Do anything for the money. Wow.
It's reported that tuberculosis rates among Ugandan prisoners are 3 times higher than in the general population. While the official stance of these U.S. labs is to prevent and counter biohazards, their direct subordination to the Pentagon raises red flags. Activities like collecting materials and
their direct subordination to the Pentagon raises red flags. What is the Pentagon? The Pentagon is the military establishment of the United States of America. The Pentagon is the war-making machine, the global war-making machine of America. And these labs are directly subordinate to that entity, and you allow them into your country to establish secret laboratories, biological, bio laboratories.
DNA from local populations don't align with the stated mission of protecting these communities. Moreover, the United States' intention to expand its network of biological laboratories across Africa adds another layer of concern. This expansion could introduce new biothreats to a continent grappling with various health challenges. The strategic allure of Africa, with its vulnerable populations, seems to be a significant factor in these plans.
Let's listen to the way they talk about us, with its vulnerable populations. And these people are planning to expand more, not less. Not like the Africans are saying, get out. We've had enough, end of all of this madness in our continent. We actually want to grow and expand and become the beautiful continent that we're supposed to be, the powerful continent, the successful people that we're supposed to be. No, they've got plans for expansion of more laboratories in Africa, more secret entities in Africa, more military bases in Africa. No wonder they're fighting so hard against the Chinese influence in Africa or the Russian influence in Africa. And Africa is now becoming yet another theater of war for these Europeans and their wicked machinations. Dear family,
organizations like the World Health Organization, which might typically hold such operations accountable, face a conflict of interest. A significant portion of the WHO's funding comes from the United States, potentially impacting its ability to assess and respond to these issues objectively.
So, the WHO, World Health Organization, they can't do nothing. They're not gonna stand now between Africa and America, or Africa and Britain, or Africa and the Europeans to protect Africans. And, you know, the World Health Organization is really about the health of Africa. No way. According to them, again, the vast majority of their money comes from America. The WHO is a wing or an arm of America, just like the Security Council and all the rest of the United Nations. They kowtow, they bow down to the West. Dear family, I must admit, I do feel a bit angry, and maybe it's a good thing that I'm not 100% this evening, so that I just have to calm myself down. But inshallah, this subject is not one that we're going to not revisit soon. We haven't even scratched the surface, in truth. We're going to return to it, inshallah, because it's very, very important that we know that unless we deal with the enemy within, we're finished. We will not make it. We will not make it as a people. And if we think, oh, it's isolated to Africa, or it's isolated to this little country here, no. We're all in this thing together. It's going to be all for one and one for all, or none at all. That's the reality. So, family, I hope that something that was said this evening has sparked a thought, has really pricked your conscience, and you realize that we got our work cut out. We've really got some serious work to do in pushing back against this onslaught, because it's not stopped. This is not something that's relegated to the 18th and the 19th century. We're in the 21st century, and I'm telling you, man, you haven't seen nothing yet. This thing is real. This struggle continues. Okay? So I thank you. I apologize if any of you feel down or depressed. You're not meant to. You're just meant to appreciate that we got work to do. Okay? And that we can't be complacent and sit back on some laurels that we think we have, you know, because this is serious business. The enemy, he's not sleeping.
He's
Okay.
overtime.
Yeah, he's working 24/7
right.
to keep us destroyed
Right.
and to enhance that destruction
Right.
in ways that are unseen and subtle. Okay, using biology, using disease, using pathogens, and you know, all manner of illicit means to try to keep us from ever realizing who we are. So, family, I want to thank you. Sister Claudia, was there anything you wanted to share before we close out?
Just to add, that's why try and purchase How to Eat to Live. That book will save your life, and we need land. The Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches that unless you're growing your own food, we need to grow our own food today. So we need to pool our resources together and separate. Imagine separation is better than prayer.
Absolutely. And, you know, we've done that subject again. That's another subject that we're going to return to, because for a lot of us, we get so scared at the idea of separation. But my God,
that's the only
believe me, that's the only way. Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it's the best and only solution. You've got to separate from these people because they are 100% disagreeable to live with. This is the reality that we face, dear family. So I thank you.
Yes. And thank you all for wherever you are in the world. Thank you for your continued support. Don't forget, tune in to NOI.org, tune in to the Final Call Radio, and subscribe to the Final Call newspaper. Get the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you all. Stay safe, stay blessed, treat yourself. Look after yourself. Get one of the books from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or Minister Louis Farrakhan or the Nation of Islam. Feed yourself with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Let's follow God. Let's get back to our own.
That's right.
Our own self and generate that God power. Be positive. Stay around positive people. Don't hang out with people who keep your spirit down, want to chat garbage all the time. Raise your spirit. And that's what will get us through the dark with the light within.
That's right.
Thank you all for listening. Take care. Stay strong. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, beloved. Take care, family. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.